Hi everyone. So today we're going to be reading chapter 4 of the All Over It Lizzie McGuire series from the 2000s, and we're just going to be looking for what the story is, and of course the characters probably. Finally, there you are, Miranda said as she flopped into a desk beside Gordo. He had his nose buried in a book, as usual. He was surrounded by books and pieces of paper in various stages of being folded, many of which littered the ground at his feet. All prototypes for the perfect paper airplane, no doubt. He was taking this Science Olympics thing way too seriously. We have to talk. But Gordo didn't reply, and that was when Miranda noticed he wasn't reading the book. He was face down in it, fast asleep. His eyes snapped open, and he immediately started working on the paper airplane in his hand. Can't talk, he said in a zombie voice, folding. Can't talk, still folding? Hello? What's wrong with you? Miranda was starting to think that there was something in the water. All of her friends were acting beyond weird. Paper airplane distance contest? After school? He yawned, covering his mouth. Then he went on, beat Tudgman. Gordo, this is serious, Miranda said. She's ending our friendship over a stupid leather jacket. Miranda waved her hand dismissively. Okay, a really cool leather jacket, but you know what I mean. She'll get over it. Only half paying attention. Then he held up his airplane and let it go. It only sailed about 3 feet before crashing. He cried in frustration. Miranda frowned at the crumpling paper. Is it supposed to do that? Suddenly, Miranda looked up and gasped. Lizzie was standing in the doorway, and she was wearing something that looked a lot like a potato sack. Lizzie hurried over to her friends and quickly started collecting Gordo's rejected paper airplanes. What are you doing? Gordo shouted, suddenly wide awake as Lizzie reached for the papers on his desk. He crouched protectively over his airplanes. I'm working on these. 99% of all paper products are recyclable, Lizzie recited, and yet only 15% of people recycle. Gordo thought about that for a moment. That makes no sense. Exactly, Lizzie crowded, reaching for the paper in Gordo's hands. Gordo snatched his paper airplanes out of her reach. I need to test out multiple designs to see which one travels the farthest. Why? Lizzie demanded. So I can beat Tudgman. Tudgman? Lizzie thought. Tudgman? Beating Tudgman is not more important than saving trees, Lizzie insisted. This is all I've dreamed about ever since the 4th grade. Recycling is going to have to wait. Well, saving the earth can't wait, Lizzie said, self-righteously, pounding her fist on his desk. They both turned to Miranda for backup. I think I'll be eating my lunch alone today, Miranda said. Over at his elementary school, Matt glanced at the large hall clock. 20 seconds till the start of his shift. He slicked back his chair and tied on his neon orange safety belt, giving his badge a quick buff. With 10 seconds to go, he slipped on his large pair of aviator sunglasses, whipped out his citation pad, and gave his whistle a practice blast. Then he checked the clock again. Showtime. Matt flipped open his pad. Time to go to work, he announced. A few moments later, a blonde girl sped by on her scooter, holding her helmet under her arm. Stopping her with a blast of his whistle, Matt put the helmet on the girl's head, then pointed to a large buckle up sign and wrote her a citation. The girl started to scoot away, but Matt pointed to another sign on the wall that read, No Scooters, another citation for her. A group of kids walked down the hallway, laughing and talking loudly. Matt stopped them and pointed to a sign on the door of a nearby classroom. Test in progress, the sign read. He scribbled out citations for the noisy group. Just then, Matt stopped his teacher, Mr. Warner, trotting down the hall on his way to class. Matt held up his hand and pointed to a sign reading, "Walk, don't run." Matt wrote out a citation and handed it over. After all, nobody is above the law. Mr. Warner stared down at the citation. "Surely you must be joking." "I'm not joking. And don't call me Shirley." Mr. Warner grabbed Matt by the back of his orange safety belt and carried him down the hall, his legs flailing like crazy. "Respect my authority." Mr. Warner did respect his authority. After all, he was trying his best not to laugh. Back at Hillridge, Gordo stood at the end of the hallway, staring Tudgman down. It was the last day of the Science Olympics. Gordo knew that if he could undermine Tudgman's confidence, the slow bike race was his. After all, he had won it last year. He could do it again. But Tudgman understood Gordo's game, and he was doing his best not to crack. The two competitors were locked in an old-fashioned stare-off. Gordo narrowed his eyes. Larry lifted an eyebrow and tightened his grip on the calculator in his hand. A bed of sweat trickled down his face. A lone tumbleweed drifted across the hallway. Gordo tried not to wonder where the heck the tumbleweed came from as he tossed his bike helmet from hand to hand. Finally, Larry scurried away. Smiling in satisfaction, Gordo let out a massive yawn. "What are you doing?" Miranda asked as she walked up to Gordo. Gordo yawned. "I was intimidating Tudgman," Gordo explained, rolling his eyes. "Yeah, that yawn looked pretty scary," Miranda said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Yeah, well, it's working," Gordo replied. He and Miranda fell into step as they started toward their social studies class. "My late nights are actually paying off. We're tied. He won the egg drop, and I won the long-distance paper airplane contest. Now it all comes down to the slow bike race after school. The last person to cross the finish line wins." Miranda cocked an eyebrow at him. "I think you need to trade that bike helmet in for a pillow." He smiled and patted him on the shoulder. "But I'll be out there cheering you on, and I'm hoping Lizzie will be too." Gordo flopped at his desk the minute they reached class. He dropped his head, shut his eyes, and crashed. "Hey," Miranda said brightly as she sat down at the desk next to Lizzie's. "Yes," Lizzie huffed grimly. Biting her lip, Miranda sat fidgeting with the pencil. "Lizzie, listen," she said gently. "I'm not wearing leather today. I didn't eat meat last night at dinner, and I recycled my soda can at lunch. So, can I talk to you?" Lizzie shrugged. "I guess." "What are you wearing?" Miranda asked, eyeing Lizzie's all-brown, all-natural, way all-ugly outfit. It was a pretty far cry from Lizzie's usual bright colors and sparkly accessories. "Burlap," Lizzie snapped. "It's a renewable resource." "Okay, Lizzie. I'm really worried about you." "Don't be worrying about me," Lizzie said, her voice deadly serious. "Be worried about the world. Be worried about the environment and the homeless people and the animals and the rainforest and the ozone layer. And I don't even think I need to mention global warming. The whales, or the polar ice caps, which are melting as we speak," Lizzie added mentally. "Well, the rainforest isn't going to hang out with me and rent movies with me on Friday nights. Can't you just put this aside for a few hours? Let's go watch Gordo at the slow bike race after school." Just then, Miss Moran walked into the room. "Okay, everyone. Clear your desks for a pop quiz." Everyone began to clear their desks. Well, everyone, that is, but Gordo. His head was still down on his desk, and he was snoring softly. "Mr. Gordon," Miss Moran prompted, "are you still with us?" Gordo's eyes fluttered open blurrily. I'm just resting my eyes, he insisted, then plopped his head back onto his desk. Miss Moran began to hand out the 2-page quiz. Lizzie frowned as she took a quiz from the person in front of her. Miss Moran? Lizzie, don't, Miranda whispered. She knew what was coming. Lizzie, there'll be time for your questions after the quiz, Miss Moran said. Lizzie stood up. No, there won't be time. Lizzie, Miranda pleaded. She knew where this was headed, and it definitely wasn't going to help Lizzie's social studies grade. Don't. Miss Moran, we're running out of time. The teacher's eyes widened. Lizzie, quiet. I won't be quiet. Miranda put her head in her hands. Here we go. Do you know how many trees you killed with your little quiz? Lizzie demanded, getting right into Miss Moran's face. You could have printed those double-sided. You could have saved a life. Tree killer. I'm going to ask you one last time, Lizzie, to sit down and be quiet. Miss Moran's voice was low and her eyes flashed dangerously. We'll discuss this after the quiz. I would expect you, out of all people, to understand. You encouraged us to start this project. Why won't anyone help me? Miss McGuire, I'm going to help you. I am sending you home to get some sleep. That's not good. Miss Moran handed Lizzie a hall pass. Lizzie blinked at it for a moment. Oh my gosh, she thought as she took the bright orange pass from her teacher. What have I done? Not only was she in serious trouble, but Miss Moran had just used up yet another piece of paper. Lizzie walked out of the classroom, shutting the door behind her. I'm not sleeping, Gordo insisted, his eyes snapping open at the sound of the door. Just resting my eyes. Okay, so that was chapter 4 of Lizzie McGuire series. All over it. And thank you.